Please welcome Sam Sifton, Hannah Cheng, Adam Eskin, and Nicolas Jammet.
Welcome, guys. So we only have 25 minutes, so I'm going to just do a real quick introduction, and then we're going to go into a speed round of questions. We're going to have a great conversation. So, already I'm getting heckled by the crowd. So Hannah Cheng here, disrupting the dumpling business in New York City as a founder of Mimi Cheng's in the East Village. Got Adam Eskin from Dig In, another disruptor, and Nick Jammet from Sweetgreen. The way we're going to begin this, because what's Sweetgreen? Like maybe you don't know, is in this episode of live journalism of the New York Times, I'm going to pretend to be a kind of VC kind of fella, and I'm going to pretend that this is an elevator, and you guys are watching the elevator as I ask these guys for their kind of value proposition. What's the value proposition? I don't even know if I'm using that correctly, but just give me the quick pitch for your disruption of the fast food industry, sir.
I think you'd make a great VC, by the way.
Thank you.
So at Sweetgreen, we believe in building healthier communities, starting with the way people think about food. And to do that, we've built restaurants that celebrate seasonal cooking, full scratch cooking in every restaurant, and really focus on the supply chain and the farmer, and being able to create a healthy and convenient option for customers. And at the end of the day, create an option that the healthy option becomes the cool option that they want to do it.
And now we're on the ground floor. I'm going to press the top, and now we're going to go back up as I ask the same question of you, Adam.
Yeah, sure. So we're in the business of trying to make high-quality, farm-driven and chef-driven food accessible to the masses. So for us, accessibility, as we've heard a lot about today in this panel, is a big issue when it comes to healthful food. And you can't always get it at the right price point or in the right location or for the right speed. So we're trying to offer that convenience and that affordability for that type of food to the masses.
Hannah, how about you?
So Mimi Cheng's is an authentic and healthy Taiwanese dumpling shop. My sister and I started it because we saw a major disconnect between American Chinese food and the food that we grew up. And we're here to break the stereotype that Chinese food is greasy, it's healthy, and full of MSG. That's nothing like the food that our mom cooked growing up. And we just want to bring that, and we think that healthy food should be accessible to you. It should be at an accessible price point. And for us, that means making food from scratch, and that transparency goes a long way with our customers.
Okay, so seriously, I mean, if we think back 10, 15, 20 years ago, those position statements would have been risible, right? That's not how to begin a restaurant, young people. Most restaurants fail. Restaurants that claim that they are going to change the way people eat or change supply chains. Like 10 or 15 years ago, those restaurants would fail at an even faster rate. So what has changed in your minds that has allowed this opening in the market to exist and for you to drive into it? You want to take a shot?
Yeah, I think there's a lot more attention. And this conference is a perfect example of it. When you think about how many celebrity chefs existed, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and how many exist today, how many television programs are talking about food and where it comes from and how to prepare it and different culinary techniques. So I think from a pop culture perspective, it's really just become topical. And then once you see it on television, you start to read the books by Michael Pollan and Mark Bittman and all of the other folks that are here today. People start to get a little bit more educated about what it is they're putting in their bodies. The difference between real food that's being consumed, that comes from the farm, that's prepared freshly in a kitchen and it's served in real time, versus something that's industrial and manufactured and travels a very long distance and then is put on grocery shelves. So there's just been so much attention that's really started to accelerate over the last, I think, 10 to 15 years. And now that we're all seeing it and hearing it, these options start to pop up. So then there's a Mimi Cheng's, and then there's a Dig In, and there's a Sweetgreen. So now I'm connecting the dots and the things that I'm reading about and I'm watching on television, I'm seeing. Suddenly, these businesses are here to provide those options for us in real time as well. And I think that started back in the early 80s with what Whole Foods started with the grocery channel, and now it's starting to pervade in the food business restaurant-wise.
And of course, another thing that happens as that culture changes is our fast food companies find themselves a little bit on the ropes, right? That can't possibly last forever. The Big Mac quinoa bowl is probably in development as we speak. The spinach mushroom quesadilla from Taco Bell probably being tested in Dubuque right now. And my question to you, what happens when big food starts to take a run at what it is that you're trying to do? When Panda Express says, we're degreasifying our orange chicken. When that, I like the notion of that Big Mac quinoa bowl, because I can't imagine what it looks like. The special sauce alone is terrifying. What happens then?
Well, first of all, orange chicken is not an authentic recipe. So right off the bat, you know you're getting a fake right there.
In the panda culture, it is.
Yeah. So for us, it goes really back to transparency. All the recipes that we use are our mother's recipes, and I think that really shines through when you actually come in and visit. And there's a difference between food that's made with love and made with soul versus something that's just getting cranked out. And I think people can really taste that difference. And it's all about awareness too. As you build a market and demand and awareness increases, then naturally the supply and availability increases. And I think in that case, everyone wins. So I think it's all about bringing it back to making sure that your food actually feels like there's a soul to it. I don't doubt that McDonald's will have a quinoa bowl one day, but I'm sure it'll probably taste like everything else they make. Versus us, we use pasture-raised meat, we use the best vegetables that we can find, and it's costly, but in that case, we think it's an investment that is worth making, and other people, our customers, see that too, and that's why they keep coming back.
Nick, that's big food right there in your rearview mirror. What are you going to do? Press on the gas? Where are you going?
Well, we are definitely going to press on the gas, but I think if you look at big food, it's an interesting relationship with companies like ours, because I think that if you look at most of their innovation or a lot of their new products, I think it's inspired by a lot of what these smaller companies and smaller producers are doing. So the fact that chefs and smaller restaurants like ours started serving kale 5 years ago, that's why now you see it on McDonald's menu and all these big food menus. So I think that it's incredible to look at, even though we have a small footprint, we have 33 stores today, there's a bigger mind share we can help push around seasonal eating and around the ingredients we're serving that actually trickles into the rest of the food system. And so I think that ripple effect, that effect is larger than the actual transactions we're able to produce. And I think that when you look at a company like McDonald's and all these other big food companies, the issue is it's such a big ship and it takes them a long time to turn that ship. So they need two things to really enter this market, I think, and really affect real changes. They need leaders at the top that actually believe in this stuff and believe in the change, right? And then with that, those leaders need to create a real long-term strategic plan. You see a lot of these big food companies kind of reacting to companies like ours and changing things in the very short term, but for such a big ship that has such, incredible implications around supply chain and what we're growing in this company, they need to think 10 years out and start working towards that. McDonald's has much more power to change the way people eat in America today than we do. But if we can help affect them, then that's a positive.
Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, just adding to what both my panel members said. I do think that net, it's positive that this starts to trickle down and McDonald's does start selling quinoa bowls, and they do figure out how to put more kale on their menu because more people will be eating the right things, though maybe not exactly the same food that we're serving in our environment. But also, I think that the consumer today is just becoming a lot more savvy, and I heard words like soul from Hannah and from Nick, founders and CEOs and leaders that actually care about these things. One of the guys in our food team spends his weekends, playing hoops with a couple of guys that grow food. Another fellow with whom we're working is a small farm. He's building a spreadsheet to help him think through ROI around how to rotate, the crops in the land. So, Matt, one of my many team members, like a lot of the folks on our team, they're truly passionate about what we're doing. People are here to really make change, and that's going to be hard to find in a McDonald's environment.
So I'm glad you brought up farmers, because to a certain degree, all three of you have in the past or will today talk about farmers and the relationship that your business has with them. Nick, if I can start with you, can you talk a little bit about the challenges of maintaining those relationships with small farmers as your business grows? Or, I'm sorry, I'm a VC guy. As you scale?
There you go. So at Sweetgreen, we're in 7 different cities, and we treat each city like a separate supply chain with a different group of producers and farmers and different relationships. And those relationships take time. So when we decide to go to a city, we actually go meet farmers before we meet landlords. So for us, nurturing and building that local supply chain, that relationship-driven supply chain, is everything.
So I'm going to interrupt you because, Adam, you're going into Boston now, leaving the island of Manhattan, as very few people do, to, I mean that culturally, to go up to the Codfish Bavaria to open a dig-in up there. And you too have spoken about these supply chains and about the relationships with farmers. Very different ecosystem up there, very different bunch of farmers. On the ground, doing it for the first time, how's that going, and what are you learning?
Sure. Well, as Nick suggested, these things do take time, and ostensibly we have 4 to 6 growing seasons a year, and so once the season's passed, you're sort of waiting till the next year to develop those relationships. So you do have to start early. One of the things that we've found interesting about entering the Boston market, starting with a single unit, and then hopefully more to come after that, is the scale and the volume of produce for which we're purchasing is very different than what we're doing today in New York with 11 units, right? And growing. And so what that enables us to do as we think about entering into these new markets and we go one restaurant at a time, is our ability and our opportunity to partner with more of the small scale farmers that maybe today aren't equipped to service the volume from our 11 or 12 or 15 units or 20 soon in New York, but we can start with 1 and we can start with 2, and then as we develop that relationship year over year, we can grow alongside one another. We can help you finance new land, we can help you buy seeds, whatever creative solution that we've done in the past, we're happy to do it, and I think long term that's what creates alignment over a longer period of time, where when we get to 10 or 15 in that market, we're looking at each other and say, hey, remember back when we had 1 or 2 units, that's what we're hoping for.
So Hannah, with your 1 unit, unit, by the way, means restaurant. I figured that out right up here on stage. I'm bridging business and culture. Can you talk a little bit about your relationships with suppliers in and around New York?
Definitely. So we went through the same thing as these gentlemen on the stage, not to the same degree because we only have 1 unit, but for us, the quality of the produce and meat that we serve this is really the main reason why we got into this business in the first place, was because there wasn't something like it. So it was our top priority. We went out and met farmers, and one of the challenges, I think, is when you're working with smaller farmers and co-ops is that an issue of reliability and consistency comes up. So that's something that you learn your partner's strengths, and you learn areas for potential hiccups, and you come up with backup plans. You create a network of farmers. So you have to build those relationships because it's a symbiotic one.
The impulse for larger groups of restaurants, chains with more units, must be to grab at the farm in some way. And you suggested some ways in which you can work with farmers to provide seeds and the like. How do you, without actually owning the farm itself, how can you affect the reliability of the produce that you're getting in?
Yeah, I think, when we think about the relationships we're building with our suppliers, we think of it a bit differently. Because we have this seasonal menu that changes 5 times a year, we have the flexibility to build our menu around the farmers. So talking to them a year out about what they want to grow, what they can grow, what makes the most sense for their farm, given everything else that they're planting in an integrated way, we build our menu around that. So building a really symbiotic relationship with the farmer, where their business can thrive as ours thrives, is the only way we're going to grow. And I think, as we heard this morning, that the future of our farming industry is a concern for us, because as we all sit here marketing this healthier food and creating more access to it, we're going to need more people to grow that food. And today, if we don't start building these deeper relationships with our farmers, that's going to be really tough to do.
Do you find it difficult, any of you, to change the behavior of diners who are coming? And I know at Dig In, Brussels sprouts, big issue at Dig In. People are into Brussels sprouts at Dig In. And then Brussels sprouts go away because that's how the farming schedule works.
Right.
Without seeing a precipitous drop in lunchtime sales, how do you then turn the consumer?
We've talked a lot about this over the course of the past few years in our history, being sort of a single product or a single food concept as opposed to sort of standing for something greater. And, we see it as both an opportunity and a challenge to introduce, some of these maybe less mainstream foods to the folks that, our business is about 65% lunch versus dinner. So we do a lot of lunch business, and that's a lot of those folks are coming in, they're spending $10 and they're going back to their office. And I don't know that every single one of those customers that's coming into our restaurants is wildly adventuresome culinarily or is going here or is going there. So we see it as both an opportunity and a challenge to introduce some of those new foods. We just put the sunchoke salad on the menu for the fall menu, and it has shaved raw, it has cooked sunchoke, it has some endive, and we think it's delicious. It's in a horseradish vinaigrette. It's not the top seller, nor do we expect it to be the top seller, right? So we try to introduce dishes here and there. We drop them in, we see how they play. But we also think it's fun and exciting to get people that maybe have never had a sunchoke before or didn't know what a sunchoke was to experiment with that food. And we do, whether it's the Brussels or otherwise, we do get our fair share of, hey, you changed the recipe this year, or I still see it in Whole Foods, so why isn't it in your restaurant? And, it's like the watermelons come well before we're ever prepared to source them from Long Island, which is a very short period of time. So we do work with that, and our best shot is just to educate. We say, hey, look, this is our perspective, this is how we think about it, and we'd like you to come along.
Good luck with those sunchokes. I'd like to turn toward lifestyle, because it seems to me, of course, there's a lifestyle peddled by fast food, and there always has been. That's what the Hamburglar was about, and the bouncy castles, and all of that. But it seems somehow different in the world that you guys occupy. I think there's an implicit lifestyle decision in Mimi Cheng's. There's an explicit one with Sweet Life, a parallel brand. Can I start with you, Nick, talking about that and how that helps Sweetgreen?
Yeah, so for us, at an early age, we realized that early in the business that for us, if we really wanted to change the way people thought about food, it had to be more than just the transaction. It couldn't just be about what they came in the store, handed over their $10 and got a bowl. It had to be more than just the physical act of eating. And we wanted to connect with our consumers in a deeper way and really show them where this idea of healthy eating fits into their greater lifestyle. So for us, really looking at where we've gone into the community, and whether it's building our Sweetgreen in Schools program where we educate kids about healthy eating, or Sweet Life, which is a big music vertical we've started that resulted in a big music festival with about 25,000 people. And the idea is that healthy eating, the healthy choice should be the good choice. It should be the cool choice. And so often or not, those things are at odds. And so we wanted to create and celebrate these moments where the healthiest points in your life could also be the funnest. So when you're at a music festival, that tends to be the least healthy day of the week or the year for you. So we wanted to create a festival that celebrated our food ethos and celebrated this healthy lifestyle. And to us, that's what the Sweet Life is.
Got it. So all of that happens against a background of something we haven't spoken about yet today, which is cost. Good food, cheap, fast. I think you all agree that that's something that we ought to do. We're hearing from other people here today, and we'll hear more tomorrow, about how good food costs money, costs good money, and we should be prepared to spend more for it. I'm really interested in how you guys square in your separate businesses this impulse to provide good and healthy and excellent food quickly with the profit motive, and with what we, I think, are learning here today, which is cheap food's kind of a lie.
Definitely. So I think that whenever you're faced with a tough business decision like that, to go with the more expensive option or the cheaper option, you have to ask yourself, okay, why did we get in this business? Why did we start Mimi Cheng's? And the purpose of Mimi Cheng's is to bring good and healthy food to people on a regular basis. Healthy, good food should be an everyday event, not something that's reserved for special occasions. So for us, that means we have to get really creative around usage of food and how avoiding food waste. So, for example, broccoli stems make a delicious, delicate, crunchy salad. Kale stems, not so good in dumplings, but excellent in fried rice. And then meat bones we save to make broth for fish ball soup. So you have to get creative about how you're actually working with the food.
Does that scale up for you, gentlemen?
I think so. Certainly one of the benefits of scale in terms of volume is that, when you're thinking about even going back all the way to supply into the farmer, the leverage that you get out of that land and the concept that you can make more money, maybe less profit per case or per bushel, but more in the aggregate from the same land, selling to us, with a predetermined period of time with a set price where you know what you're dealing with versus going to the farmer's market every Saturday. So I think scale is a part of that can actually be beneficial. There's certainly the culinary creativity that Hannah mentioned around things like reusing stems or orange peels, et cetera. But also, I would acknowledge, what Steve Ells and Chipotle, I think, did for the industry a few decades ago, developing this idea and this model in terms of how a restaurant behaves, that there's quality and convenience and accessibility from a price perspective. The model that we all share and enjoy, we don't really have a front of house staff per se, right? We don't have a sommelier, we don't have somebody at the front that's seating folks, right? So when you go into our restaurant, you walk up to the line, you point out what you want, you walk down and you leave. And just by virtue of that operating model, I think that creates more opportunity than we had beforehand to deliver this type of food at an appropriate price point.
All right, so that operating model also describes fast food in America for the past 75 years, which is a story. It's a health story. It's a culinary story. It's also a story of franchising. And I want to ask, when there are 100 Mimi Chengs, when there are thousands of all of your businesses, does the franchise model work for what you're doing? Silence was recorded on the stage.
I mean, we believe for our business model that franchising is not right for us with the level of complexity around the supply chain and the full scratch cooking. I mean, all 33 of our units have full kitchens in them. And we cook everything from scratch every day in every restaurant. So that level of complexity, along with just the marketing and the brand that we try to create and that connection with the consumer, is really hard to teach. You can't put that in a franchise Bible.
And it's hard to find people. I mean, we have a story in the New York Times today, and the New York Times is out there, and I hope that you read them, but Julia Moskin has a terrific story coming into the paper, and I think maybe online right now, about this pain point. Where are the cooks that we need? Not like, oh, they're not showing up for work, but we simply don't have enough of them, say a number of people, including this gentleman right here, quoted in the New York Times. So square that. How are you going to train these guys up? Where do you get staff?
I think because our collective business models are so different, and we are doing things like scratch cooking, and we are changing our menus, and it's not just get a frozen patty and press a button. I think part of the role and the job that we all have up on this panel as we build our respective businesses is we have to reinvent the workforce in a way, right? That we have to think about, what are the attributes and the skills and the personalities that we're looking for inside of our restaurants, and then how do we go recruit for those? And if they're not readily available, what are the training systems and infrastructure and culture, et cetera, that we can put in place so that we can draw people in and give them an education such that they can be successful operators, chefs, cooks in our restaurants, and that's how we're thinking about it.
What then, I hate to keep sticking on this, but what then is the path for advancement? I'm a pretty good cook at Dig In. Where do I go next?
Well, so for us, I think it's one of twofold. If we're a growing business and we're building units, right? And there's more opportunity whether you want to take over your own restaurant or whether you want to oversee as a chef multiple restaurants, or maybe you have an interest in marketing or human resources and culture and you find your way on the support team. So there's opportunity there. We'd be just as happy, collaborating with a number of young chefs over some period of time and then seeding them and participating in some way to help them go off and start their own restaurants, right? So we'd like to play a role in their own professional development, not just on the culinary side, but how to think about the full picture in terms of how do I run a business and what do I need to do if I want to go do that.
Which is interesting. I mean, this is something that actually was part of the birth of Mimi Cheng's, and your sister and co-founder, in fact, did some work with Sweetgreen early on at the Nomad Sweetgreen, right?
Exactly.
So it's all so delicious and hippy-dippy and everybody's friends and we're all going to make $1 million. Is that, it just seems like this is the answer, and maybe in fact it is. This has been a delicious elevator ride up and down. I'd like to just give you just one more chance to earn all the money that I have in my pocket that I could give you for like your C or D round of financing. I knew that term, C or D round. Your closing statement, madam, on the state of fast food in America today and your place within it.
So where you invest your money really is what's going to change the path of where future is going, right? We might not be able to change policy as quickly as we can where we put our dollars, but big companies respond to that. When they see Sweetgreen and people are flocking to buy kale from them, McDonald's is thinking to himself, where's my kale? Like, we have to sell kale. And I think that's a win for everyone, like Adam was saying. Great, if McDonald's sells quinoa bowls instead of tasteless burger pucks, I think that's a win for America's health. And we're just part of that, so.
If McDonald's sells quinoa bowls, I think I get a cut. I invented them right here. Elevator going down, last chance for you, sir. Nick?
Yeah, I mean, we're excited to see the world of food changing, and the way people think about the food they're putting in their bodies is changing. They're starting to connect that with their health in the short term. I eat this makes me feel like this. I eat this, I like feel better, I'm healthier. But I think the next step, and which is really exciting, is seeing people connect their food and what they eat to their long-term health. So eating this today makes me feel like this in 30 years, or avoids having these kind of health issues in 30 years. And that's a big leap to make, and to make that connection, it's going to take a bunch of different industries and people and policymakers and chefs to all come together to be almost like an orchestra for the solution. And I think that we're starting to see some exciting progress, and that's we're happy to be in this space at this time.
All right. Sounds like grim news for the cheesesteak business. And you, sir, dig into your last moments.
Yeah,
here.
sure. Just echo the sentiments of both of them. It's an exciting time. We feel just unbelievably grateful and fortunate to be just a part of what this conference stands for and what we're all working towards. I think you can see it and it's palpable. It may be 5, 10, 15 years from now, but I think we all share the same view that we're all working on the same team, and we're charting this uncharted territory, and it's going to happen for all of us. We don't necessarily need to compete with one another, right? We are going after the McDonald's and the Burger Kings and the Wendy's of the world. I think this side of the coin is the side of the coin that you want to be on. So I feel really fortunate and excited, and I think it's unfolding in front of our eyes.
This refreshing lack of cynicism is confusing.
So are you going to invest?
I'm just kidding. I'm a journalist from the New York Times, and I thank you all very much for listening to these guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, guys. Go ahead.
Good work.